Hey everyone, welcome to the GRIT Crusade, the show where we really talk about what's authentic and real in life. You know, the grit, getting real in the trenches of life. I'm your host, Brooke Plack, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a self-proclaimed comeback queen, as in I've been to the bottom and back and experienced a lot in life. We're here just to get real and be authentic because that's where we truly live and experience life. So from listening to me share the wisdom about all the things I've totally messed up on in life and having some guests join us along the way, I'm so excited that you're here. And more than anything, share this with people that you know could use it too. So now let's dig in and get real in the trenches. Today, I am here with Taylor Otwell, founder. That's you, right?
That's me.
That's you. You're here. The founder and CEO of Laravel. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is our first time to actually sit down and visit.
Yeah.
I feel like I know you through your kids. That's like weird, probably because most people know you through tech. So I'm coming at a whole
I feel like
different...
nobody knows me around here, actually.
Yeah.
But this would be my introduction, I guess.
Yeah, right? You're like Birdie's dad, huh? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that your name? So you are a local business owner. I'm going to call it that, right? But your company is international now.
Right.
Yeah.
I am from here. The business started around here, but yeah, we have employees in multiple countries and users all over the world.
Okay. So tell us, I'm sure you get asked all the time, tell the story about Laravel and you're like, oh, okay. But my specific question is, you spent all this time starting a company that wasn't going to make any money.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of a bad idea at first, I guess. I kind of started the company accidentally, though. I didn't know it was going to take off. I just kind of built something for myself because I had a problem that I needed to solve. And then I put it out there for the world and people sort of started using it. You know, it wasn't like an overnight success, but it grew over time and slowly. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, I have a business now. And it was sort of an accident.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to make any money off of it at first, for sure. For the first couple of years, actually. And
you weren't just like, oh, I've had a trust fund and I'm sitting here doing this for fun. You had a job and a family.
Exactly.
So how were you navigating doing all that at the same time?
So like you said, I had a job at ABF Freight. I worked, regular 8 to 5 computer programming job. And after work, Abigail would go to bed. Abigail, my wife, we were living in Fort Smith, Arkansas at the time. And after she went to bed, I would stay up and work on this Laravel project until like 1, 2 a.m., which was like so easy for me back then. I was only like 23 or 24.
Where does that energy go?
And it's like, I would get up at 7 and go to work the next day. It's like, no problem at all. But yeah, I just did that for like 6 months of late nights, maybe even a little longer than that. And then, got to a point where it was finished.
Yeah. I feel like that, she wakes up all chipper in the morning and she's like, hey, how are you? How'd you sleep? And you're like, I just went to bed just a little bit ago. So
yeah, seriously.
That's commitment though. So you start Laravel. And so if I like to say it from a kid perspective, sometimes if your kids had to tell us what you do, what is Laravel? So just a regular person. Yeah.
So Laravel is like a toolkit or a starting point for building any sort of web application. So maybe you have like a booking system or you run a lawn company and people need to pay their invoices. You can build any kind of custom system with Laravel, but it doesn't provide any of the like graphical stuff. So it's not like WordPress or like a blogging platform. You know what I mean? It's sort of behind the scenes. Yeah. It's not drag and drop, but it's for building sort of custom bespoke applications for the web or for mobile devices.
So something I heard you talk about when I had listened to a podcast you were on several years ago was, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier about how you kind of started it to solve a problem for yourself.
Right.
You had said that it was to a point where people weren't really enjoying their job. As developers were going on, it's like that you were doing what you were doing because of the end result, but you didn't enjoy doing it. And so how did Laravel solve that problem?
So in my particular niche of programming, it was becoming sort of like really bogged down with a lot of tedious work that you had to do to build applications. And it didn't feel very productive or like very enjoyable.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I always tell people like Laravel is successful because I'm like kind of dumb and had to make programming like really easy, really streamlined, really simple so that like everything was very much easy to accomplish, And because of that, I think it just really resonated with people because it was just sort of a breath of fresh air where they didn't have to spend so much tedious time to do every little task. And you could do things a lot more quickly and just a lot more with a lot less pain, basically. I went to school more for like computer networking. So maybe like working at a high school or working at a hospital and like being in the IT department, but not really like building applications from scratch. You know what I mean? I didn't go to school for that at all, actually. I just had one class that did that. All 4 years of college, I had one class that focused on programming.
I think how much stress it goes into, high schoolers like choosing what they want to be when they grow up.
Yeah, I know.
Like, God, I mean, we really don't know.
Yeah. When I was like in my senior year of college, I wasn't even sure I wanted to work with computers like at all. I was just not really a like super computery person, I guess, like at that time. So it just all worked out in this very lucky way. But yeah. Here I am.
And here you are. Could you imagine though? Like think if the world didn't have Laravel, right? I feel like that would impact hundreds of thousands of people now because the open source part of it that a lot of people, the interconnectivity that it allows basically is something that's changed the way we all do online, even just the regular person.
Yeah. It would definitely be a big butterfly effect of, consequences.
Right. Yeah. So you have this company. Or really, it's just kind of like a thing you built.
A project.
Project is a good way to put it. And so at what point do you realize, like, I have something here. Like, I got to keep doing this.
People just got so freaking passionate about it. Like, it really developed like almost this cult following of really passionate programmers that just like live and breathe Laravel, like have a Laravel tattoo. Like, you know what I mean? Like
that is epic. I feel like that's when you're a brand. You got somebody with a tattoo, right?
I know. And they just like lived and breathed it. And it became just like a culture on Laravel and almost like a cult of personality around Taylor Otwell online for a lot of people. And it just kind of blew up and became this crazy thing. And that's when I was like, wow, this is like way beyond anything I ever expected. Especially when you start like traveling overseas and people are just like going crazy and want you to sign their laptop. And it just became like, this is like a different world.
Sign their laptop. It's like the band version of like sign my bra, but it's like, will you sign my laptop?
It's so crazy. Yeah. And it's so different from my experience here. Like I live this very quiet, normal life here, but then you go to like these programming conferences or conventions and it's just like,
and you're like, no, I'm really just a dude that just happened to solve a problem.
Yeah. It's weird.
I feel like there was some intentionality though behind the community building though, right?
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I feel like that part of like what made Laravel so like cult like is nobody was making any money off of it per se. Yeah. Now they were building projects and doing things, but you put some intentionality behind like, okay, if we can get this community of people together and we get them moving, like how did you foresee that?
Part of it was being really intentional about making everyone feel sort of welcome and involved. Like at the very beginning, I would like hang out in the Laravel chat room personally, like all day while I was working. I just kind of had it open and would chime in here and there, and it was like part of the community. And then just making it like a really friendly, chill place to like work on stuff. I think really, it just really energized people, I guess, and made them feel like, okay, I'm kind of a part of this, like I'm not on the outside. I'm actually like part of this cool thing and I'm contributing to it. And I'm like influencing it, how it develops, because everyone sort of has a say in these open source projects because anyone can contribute a feature or a bug fix or whatever. So I think when people felt like they had a say and they were involved in it, it really sort of made them feel like part of a family or something. And it just kind of attached them to the framework.
Which is amazing. I mean, I always tell my staff all the time, everyone's greatest need in life is to belong.
Exactly. And I had that exact same thought, honestly. It was just like, everyone wants to be a part of something. You know what I mean? Like a part of something that has some kind of meaning. And a lot of people were just kind of finding that in Laravel and contributing to it. And yeah, I had that exact same thought.
That's, that community is something that once you can turn on, it doesn't turn off, and the authenticity of it, of you being in there too, and it not being like Taylor Otwell, like some guy up in the space. You were like a real dude that you were over there going, that's a good idea, but what about if we did this? And then it kind of just created that tight-knit community. So the first Laravel conference, which you guys call Laracon, was kind of, I mean, I think 90 people was a lot, but it was small compared to what you guys have now. Yeah. So now you guys are having conferences all over the country. How many people are coming to something like that?
Well, the last one we did was in 2019 before COVID. There will be one in July in Nashville. So just a few months away. But in 2019, we're in New York City. We had 900 attendees. So about 10 times bigger than the
Just
first
like,
Laracon.
can you believe it?
Yeah, I know. It was crazy. I mean, it was like right in Times Square, like a big Laracon sign, like in Times Square.
Oh
It
my
was crazy.
gosh. Like, can you believe like I'm a part of this? Like you're like
that was definitely like a peak moment, I think, in this Laravel story, was being like on this big Times Square billboard.
And did you feel like at that moment, was that one of those moments of I've made it?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like one of the peak moments. Like I said, just like, wow, this is insanity,
Yeah. So before you went on and decided to go full time and start actually making money off of this, right? Mm-hmm. What was the hardest part, other than not making money? What was the hardest part of that first, I think it was about two years? Yeah. Was it about 2 years before you left and decided January 1 of 16, I think?
2015.
15 was 15 like when you went full time?
From beginning of 2012 to beginning of 2015. I still had like a full-time job, and it was just kind of a side project.
That's only been like 7
I
and
know,
a half,
it hasn't been that
8
long.
years ago. That's so cool. So during that time, what was hard about the beginning? You had all these people contributing, everyone chiming in. Mm-hmm. What was hard?
There were a couple challenges. One is just like staying focused on the mission of like what we wanted to do, because there were a lot of voices saying like, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. This would be cool. That would be cool. And having to stay focused on like what was the actual vision for Laravel from the beginning. Staying focused on that was one challenge. As far as like going full time and starting a business, just the fear of like failure, was another problem. Like what if, tech changes really fast, so there's always some concern of like, what if Laravel's not a thing next year? Like what if there's a new thing or it dies off for whatever reason? And just like, it's a fast, like moving landscape, so you never know what's going to happen. Fear of failure, was one of the main concerns I had, I guess.
I mean, I think that's like life, and especially for any entrepreneur too, though. That's what keeps so many people from, like you said, the butterfly effect from coming into play is because of that fear of failure. Mm-hmm. But like somebody would hire you, right? That was kind of like my thing. When I was a school teacher, and when I finally turned my resignation letter like in January for June. Mm-hmm. But like when I finally turned it in, it was like, how am I going to get insurance? How am I going to get do what? I'm like, well, somebody will hire me, right? I could go work for Walmart, like something. We can do something, exactly. Right?
You could do something.
Somebody's going to hire me. I can figure this out. All right. So one of the things that we do on this podcast is we do what's called trivia in the trenches.
Okay.
So on the GRIT Crusade, we're talking about all the things that are hard, but I know you have a conference coming up. Mm-hmm. So we like to have a little fun too. And you're going to Australia. Yes. So this is kind of an Aussie fact-ish. Okay. All right. So, well, actually, an Aussie did this. So someone from Australia, an Aussie, tried to sell New Zealand on eBay. What was the starting price?
I'll say $1 million.
1 cent. I know. Isn't that great? So I know. Wow. I love doing a little fun trivia that has a little something to do with what's going on. So, all right. So we've talked about kind of where Laravel came from, a little bit of the story, but at some point you went, I can make some money off this. And you decided to write an ebook, which was a launch pad. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so how did you decide that the ebook was the way to go? There was a lot of things you could have done to monetize.
Yeah, I think I picked ebook because it was required very little like prep. I could just start writing it and release it, and there was no other really
or support or anything like that. There was
that's a big one. Yeah, no customer support afterwards, no updates, no bug fixes. It's just something like one and done, bam, and just kind of instant some revenue. And it was not a very long ebook, actually. I only wrote maybe like 70 pages, which adds up fast, when you have like code examples in the middle of the page.
Yeah, like that kind of diagram.
Yeah, so that it wasn't hard to hit that number. And that gave me enough money to feel like, okay, well, maybe I can do some other things to make money, but it wasn't enough money to like quit my job and start a full-time business,
Yeah.
But it was just the first step. And I think kind of energized me to take like bigger steps after that.
Oh, those small wins are sometimes like what it takes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's people that are so successful in ebooks and info products and tech right now. Like it's still like such a good thing to get into.
So you don't think it's too late for somebody that wants to come in and they're like, okay, maybe a kid or a teenager or 20 something, and they've been working on something at home. Like sometimes it's so overwhelming and there's so much out there. You feel like everything's already done, right?
Yeah, I think you can feel that way, but I think there's honestly still just such a lack of like high quality content out there. Like
Right.
there's a wide array of content, but not all of it is that great. So if you can like really nail either some entertaining style or you can like capture people in some way with high quality content, there's still so much room to
I
do
love
things there.
that. I love that. So, what was the last thing you Googled?
Oh God,
I know.
this is the crazy thing about programmers is people don't realize how much we're Googling.
I
Like,
know.
how to
That's
do our
why I wanted to
job.
know that. But I feel like that's everyone's job, though. Like if you were like, "Hey, Brooke, can you do this?" I'd be like, leave him like, you know.
I Google how to do things in Laravel, like
Oh,
because
I love that so much. That just made my whole day.
because after like 10 years, you know, I just can't remember everything in my head for every feature. So I'll Google Laravel things.
Wait. When you Google Laravel things, though, does sometimes like your own answer come up in like your support stuff?
Sometimes our own documentation, but other times it's like a forum thread or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's.
So you're not over there like, oh, Taylor said to Taylor. That would be like super introspective. So,
yeah.
All right. So you guys moved back to Arkansas or moved back to Central Arkansas.
Right.
You were in Fort Smith, be closer to family and all of that. But you have employees that are all over the world, which puts them in different time zones. And so how do you guys navigate that work environment?
It's a little tricky. So obviously we use tools like Slack, just sort of online chat tools for our team so we can kind of stay in touch. We don't do a lot of like phone calls, Zoom meetings. We don't do hardly any of that. It's mainly like asynchronous chat or project management posts. We use a tool called Basecamp. But the trickiest the trickiest challenges are like Australian employees because that's like full 12, 13 hour time difference. So
it's straight sleep time.
Yeah. So thankfully, one of our Australian team members gets up at like 5 a.m. So they're coming to work like at 4 p.m. for my time.
Yeah.
And so we have like an hour to kind of like sync up, get on the same page, figure out what we need to do that day. I can answer any questions he has and sort of get him started for the day. So that works out pretty well, but it's still a little tricky. But it has benefits too. Like we have kind of 24-hour presence, you know, kind of watching things.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
And they can text me, they can call me in the middle of the night if something's like a real emergency.
So with Laravel, we had everybody contributing to it. It was, you know, kind of open out there for the public. Now you've got a team. What kind of projects are you guys working on now? Because you're paying these team members. So you've taken this amazing thing and now have figured out how to make a career for not only you, but other people on this. So what are you guys doing right now?
So after the ebook, I went on to launch like 5 separate commercial services around Laravel. And those are usually all like monthly subscription services, kind of like Netflix. Developers pay monthly to use these services. And we are mainly working on new features, bug fixes, improvements for those services. And I personally still spend a lot of my time on like the open source side of building Laravel framework, the free part. But most of those employees are working on new stuff, exciting new features on all of those commercial products.
So you said the free part of Laravel. So is there a paid part of that now?
No, the tool itself is still totally free, can be used for free for anything. The only commercial part of that is some of the other tools we've built that help you actually deploy your finished project out onto the internet and kind of make it live, so to speak. You can pay monthly for that. Or we have like monthly or a subscription like add-ons for Laravel that add additional features. But that core piece is still essentially free.
So these team members, what kind of roles do they have?
They're all, they're mostly computer programmers, just like me. Some of them went to school, some of them didn't for computer programming. Some of them didn't go to college at all for anything. They just came straight out of high school and started programming. And we have one customer support person that handles like emails, refunds, things like that.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty lean team.
Really lean. I feel like we're too lean sometimes. And I feel like that's one mistake I made in business was not hiring sooner because I was scared.
Yeah. Because you're like, once you hire them, you got to like make sure you still have money to pay them and do all the things. And
the whole business has kind of felt like my baby, so to speak. And I was scared to like let someone else in as an employee and stuff. So but it is a lean team for how many things we're trying to manage, I think.
So what's the hardest part of like your professionally? What's the hardest part right now?
transitioning from being a computer programmer to being somewhat of a manager is hard because that's not
I'm like
really
taking
me.
a deep breath as you say that because I feel you. Like I feel you. That's so hard.
Especially for me because I don't like to do meetings. I don't like to do phone calls, and that's kind of things you have to do a little
in
bit,
leadership, for sure.
in
Yeah.
leadership. Otherwise, no one feels connected, at all.
Yeah. You're like, I know what's going on in my brain. Do you not know what's going on in my brain? No, they don't. Yeah. I've had to learn that too.
So that, and then also just knowing what to do next, like after 10 years, sometimes it is challenging to know, like, I feel like we've done a lot and I don't know sometimes what the next big thing is. And sometimes I just kind of have to trust that it will like surface itself at some point as we go along.
But so far, so good.
Yeah. So far we keep chugging along.
So you're married and you have 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
This type of work is a lot. It's not like you can sit there and like hold a baby on your lap and also be programming and dealing with all this. So how have you juggled, being a parent and a husband and building this amazing empire?
Once I went full time, it was definitely way easier because before that, it was much more challenging and I was probably a little bit more tired because I had to stay up a lot later because I had to work 8 to 5, then help Abigail from like 5 to 9 or 10, and then work from 10 to 1 or something.
Yeah.
But once I went full time, I actually, work 8 to 5 and I don't really do work stuff like after work.
I love that. That's a personal growth thing though.
Yeah.
And that's like setting boundaries for yourself.
Yeah, to some extent, because sometimes I'm really excited about a new project and it's hard not to just like code until 9 p.m. and never see anyone.
But those kids are only going to be kids for so long too. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So I don't really work after work hours. It's just kind of something that I've done since I went full time. And so that helps a lot.
But strategically having team members in different time zones, whether it was intentional in the beginning, that helps with that though. Yeah.
Yeah, it helps a lot. I mean, we just have coverage kind of around the world and I can know they're taking care of things. And if it was an emergency, they could always call me or ping me, text me or whatever. But yeah, it's been really helpful.
So what have you done that didn't go good?
Oh gosh, I've done a lot of things that didn't go well. I've launched projects that failed, that didn't really get any traction or like weren't well received. And that's always like a huge bummer because you've worked so hard on it and then you just feel like super deflated.
Then you can't get the time back either.
I know. And that really stinks if you're doing it as a side hustle, because like you only have so much time. And so before I went full time, like to put 40 hours into a project, that could be a month of like real time, but now 40 hours is just a week. And that can be really like disheartening for sure.
Yeah, no doubt for sure. Okay. So how did you meet your wife? You said something about Fort Smith.
Yep.
You guys met up there when you were working for the freight company.
Yep. I moved up there. I was working for ABF Freight. We sort of met through mutual friends. And I knew her for about a year and a half, I guess, before we like married. So we got married young.
Yeah.
I was just 23 and she was 19. And then we basically immediately had a honeymoon baby. So we had like very little time to just be married before like we had like a legit family going on.
No doubt. And then you were working and then had a side thing. So, but now the kids are a little bit older.
Yeah.
So now you're getting to kind of like re-honeymoon.
Yeah, it is nice because we still feel young, and the kids are they're self-sufficient. I mean, James is going to be a teenager this year. And, it's great. This has like been the best time, honestly, like these last few years because the kids are fun. They have personalities. They're like kind of little adults in a way.
Yeah.
And, it's been great.
So, did they have any interest in like tech or programming or anything at all, the kids?
To some extent, but it's so different from probably like when me or you were growing up. And like, I think the main difference is with the iPads and the phones, everything is so like neatly
tied
done
up
for you.
Yeah.
Like
the user
photos,
interface is already.
Yeah. Whereas like my first computer, it was like a computer my neighbor built for us. And, you had to download and install, apps. Like
and you had to get the CD-ROM or floppy disk to actually like get the new program instead of just logging in. It's like update.
Yeah. And it sort of forced you. Another big difference is like the internet is very centralized now. Like a business has like a Facebook page or maybe a person has their personal Facebook page. And like back in the day, it's like, if you wanted to be online, you had to like have your own website, like Taylor's Web Corner or whatever, like all those goofy websites that used to
exist. Taylor's Web Corner.
And that kind of forced you to like learn tech stuff in a different way that is a little bit different now, but they're still techie in like their generation's way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Victoria likes to do like art on the iPad and make YouTube shorts and like do all that stuff that's kind of for this age. So they're techie, but in a different way.
Well, like my son, he's 5. And so he wants to be a YouTuber, you know?
Yeah.
And like we would laugh if like someone said that it was our age when we were younger, we would have laughed at that. But now that's like a real career.
It's legit.
It's
yeah.
a real career. And you say she makes shorts and stuff. Like, does she post them or does she? Okay.
Yeah.
I just tell my son he has a YouTube channel, but he doesn't actually have one yet. So one day he's going to be super disappointed that all his toy videos are not on there. So
yeah. So she posts YouTube shorts of like little art things she does or like doing her nails or whatever. I don't know.
And I think that's like so empowering though, it's a life skill for them.
Yeah. And she's learned like, you know, video editing, how to do transitions, how to add music, how to do all this stuff that's legit useful.
We had no clue of when we were like, I remember my first math class in college was finite math, whatever that even means. I don't know. But I know that I had to take the floppy disk. This is in 2003. So this was like not terribly long. I guess like 20 years ago. But, you know, I mean, you had to take the floppy disk to your like laptop that weighed like 40 pounds, you know, that you had, and put it in there and do the homework and then carry it all the way across campus to the lab to give it to them to check your homework, to give you another floppy disk to then put back into a computer to take a test on. Yeah. So they just, it's a different, but it's a different thought process.
My kids make the craziest comments too about like, they picture me as so old, like, like, you know what I mean? Like they'll be like, when you were a kid, did you have to do this? I'm like, you know, when I was a kid, like I had a cell phone. Like it wasn't that long.
They're like, did you like have to dig a well outside? And like, you're like, no.
Like, did you see in black and white, like in your vision? You know, like, it's just like, they're just like have the weirdest questions. Like, you know, I did have like an Xbox and like a cell phone.
They're like, oh, they had those. You're like, I was somewhat normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. All right. Is there anything else you wish I'd asked you about that I haven't asked you about so far?
No, not really.
All right. What is one thing? This is kind of like my anchor question that I like to know. And then I think I have one more after that. But what's one thing you've always wanted to do, but you haven't? Like personally, professionally?
Oh, gosh.
I always wanted to be on Survivor. I even sent in, like, I've applied like 3 times.
That's a really exciting
one. Sent videos in. And like one time I made it and I had to fly to Dallas and couldn't tell anybody. Try flying to Dallas when you're 21 years old and you can't tell anyone. Like I called my dad and I was like, I need a plane ticket. He's like, for what? I'm like, I can't tell you. It's like I was in the FBI or something.
Oh, that is
like I actually
crazy.
Like, you know, so
that reminds me of when the Air Force flew out to talk to me. Like I couldn't tell anyone about it. This was like last year.
So you like covert ops now?
It's actually a good story.
Do you have like a badge?
No, but like I get a phone call and it's from a number I don't recognize. And I'm surprised I picked up because usually like I wouldn't.
You're like spammer or something. Yeah.
But I picked up and they're like, is this Taylor Otwell? And I'm like, yes. And he's like,
first of all, you're like, debt collector? Like, what's going on here?
He's like, this is so-and-so from Air Force Office of Special Investigations. And I was like,
what did we do?
That's weird. But I was like, okay, you know, how can I help you? And he's like, we really want to talk to you about some things that, you know, we're interested in. And I was like, okay, you know, shoot, you know, like, what do you have to talk about? And he's like, well, we have to talk to you in person to like make sure it's actually you. Like it's the real Taylor Otwell in person. So like we can fly up there tomorrow to talk to you. And this was like really short notice. And I was like, can you tell me anything that it's about? And they're like, no, I really can't do that over the phone. Like we have to see you in person.
This is like real life CSI. I love this.
Yeah. So they, I'm like, okay, well, like, he's like, we can get lunch somewhere. I was like, okay, well, do you want to meet like Cracker Barrel? Like what do you want to do?
Is that like Black Ops secure or do we clear the restaurant or how does that go down?
Yeah. So they fly up like
Did
literally the next day. No, we went to that BJ's Brew House on Shackleford.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we went there
Good
and we sit down and they're like really beating around the bush for like 10 or 15 minutes. And of course, I'm just like sweating bullets. Like, what do they want? And eventually they kind of tell me they're kind of looking for this hacker. They're not sure if he's in the States or if he's like in China or if he's in another country. And they show me like a picture of him and they're like, do you have any info on this guy? We think he uses Laravel or he knows Laravel. And I think they were also concerned, you know, he was trying to break into some.
Is that like asking if someone drinks a bottle of Dasani? Like at this point, because like there's so many users, right?
Yeah. And so, you know,
did you know him?
I had a little bit of info on him. Yeah.
Oh, dun dun.
Yeah. So I shared what I had and, you know, they took it from there. And I only heard from them one other time, like maybe 8 months later to ask me if I had any like additional info in the 8 months that had passed.
So you're just assuming in the 8 months that had passed, he wasn't like, you know, apprehended.
Yeah. I don't know what became of it, you know, but I gave them everything I had. And
So,
crazy story.
thankfully,
Abigail was very like nervous.
She thought you like had done something. You're going to get arrested,
or that they were like faking being, in the Air Force and that they were going to kidnap me or something.
Yeah, oh God, and like you weren't going to come back. Like they were going to pick you, like make you go like sit in a room and like code for them or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't think that stuff only happens like on TV, right?
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, so I feel like that. My God, I didn't know you were like covert ops.
Yeah.
Wait, do you do government work besides that?
No, but the government uses Laravel. Like like I'll get an email from an Army programmer and he'll ask me like a Laravel question. And so I know that governments are using Laravel for various things. And it might not be anything like super James Bondy, it may be some like just basic system.
Super James Bondy. It's like they needed to get an application in for somebody.
Yeah,
if they're creating like a employment application system or something like
it could be something really boring, but they are using it for some stuff.
That's cool. So did I don't know if this is a rude question, so just tell me if it's rude. Did Laravel replace something? Like, was there something before that it replaced?
Yeah, there was kind of a line of things before that it replaced. So over the years, as programming languages themselves add features, like tools like Laravel come along and then they sort of have a lifespan and then they can get replaced. So Laravel replaced a few similar tools that had kind of like aged out or were no longer being maintained at all. Maybe
as relevant.
And they weren't as relevant, and Laravel was sort of the new kid on the block. And I think what's kept Laravel around a while is prior to Laravel, no one had ever really built a business around the framework. So it wasn't really sustainable. And supported
it, like you said, because like before they weren't supporting it.
Yeah, and it was just something someone was doing in their free time and they eventually burn out or they move on
to a
different
new project
career or a new project, a new job, and it's just they don't have time for it anymore.
Yeah.
So Laravel is one of the first ones that actually has a whole business around it. And I think that's why it's been a little bit more or had a more longevity than other projects.
Did the products, call them products or projects they replaced? I don't know what to call them, frameworks or whatever. So did they have the community though that Laravel had?
It wasn't as large, and no one was doing these huge 900 person conferences in the US. There were some smaller events, regional events, but not to the scale that like Laracon eventually took it.
So Laracon is going overseas. Is this the first time Laracon will be overseas or no?
No, we've had Laracon in Europe since 2013.
Oh, so almost the very beginning.
Yeah. So like the first Laracon in the US was back in, got to think, 2013. And then we had one in Amsterdam also in 2013, the same year.
Oh, cool.
And it was in Amsterdam for the next 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
And now it's moving to Portugal this year, which is just in like 3 weeks. I'll be flying over there.
Oh, have you been to Portugal before?
No, I've never been.
So this would be great. Add that to your list.
So I'll be going there in 3 weeks. And then in February is the first Laracon in India, which India is like a huge, they love Laravel.
I mean, that's programmer world though. Like that's
they love Laravel over there.
So you're going to be like signing all kinds of laptops.
Yeah, it's probably going to be crazy.
iPhones and like floppy disk and all kinds of things.
And it's probably going to be the biggest Laracon ever because they've already sold 900 tickets, which is our biggest ever.
But do you guys cut that off at that number or no?
No, we had some more room, but that's just the most we could sell.
Yeah. So what's the weirdest thing someone's asked you to sign?
People have had temporary tattoos of my face at conferences. People have
Is that not somehow like trademarked? Like surely, right?
That was a good one. The guy that asked me to sign his laptop, that was like a legit permanent marker on his MacBook.
Which is not cheap.
Which is like a $2,000 computer.
Yeah.
So,
so he's a fan for life.
Nothing weirder than that, no like body parts.
I can't wait until after India. I feel like something's going to go down there.
I know.
I feel like somebody's going to give you like a credit card to sign or something.
They're going to be excited, I think.
It's going to have something. So, and then you guys are also going to Australia.
Yep. I think that is in October. And I've been there once before. They had their first Australian Laracon, I think in 2018. And then they did one in 2019 and then they broke for COVID and now they're back.
And so did you go to those first two? Or
I went to the 2018 in Sydney. Yeah. And that was a long journey over to Sydney.
Yes. I'm going to Australia next year for a wedding and I've never been. And so I guess, is Sydney cool, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was super cool and kind of different than I expected. Like it had somewhat of a beach vibe, like a San Diego kind of vibe. And I was not, that's just not how I pictured it. You know what I mean? But like we went to Bondi Beach and it was just like these big cliffs and ocean and waves and like restaurants on the beach. It was cool.
So I'm assuming you like to travel.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. We love to travel too. What else do you do in your free time? So you're off at 5. You're done at 5.
Yeah.
Holding the line.
Just hang out with the family a lot. I'll play games with James. Just watch TV with them. Birdie, my daughter, her name's Victoria. Everyone calls her Birdie. We watch Jeopardy every day. That's like our thing. So she's like huge trivia fanatic.
So she might have known my Aussie question. So you can ask her that one. You can take it home and see.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. That's cool. Is she going to go on Jeopardy? Don't they do a kids one? I think they do a kids one.
Yeah, she should. When she gets a little older, she like lives and breathes trivia.
I love that. So she Quiz Bowl. Is she Quiz Bowl age yet?
Yeah, she's Quiz Bowl.
She's on Quiz Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, she do good?
Yeah, I think they got Collegeville got second place last year. So she'll be in it this year. I'm sure she's going to be like super pumped.
That's awesome. Because I mean, they do Quiz Bowl like all the way through college. It's like a thing.
I know. It's like a whole culture.
It's like the whole, like, I don't know if maybe it's just like this part of the South, like debate's not as big as it was probably like 30 or 40 years ago, but Quiz Bowl is like a thing.
Yeah. And she loves it. Yeah.
Well, she gets her brains from you, right? Or from her mama.
Guess. I don't feel like I said, I'm kind of dumb. That's why Laravel's successful.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, I think she's smarter than me now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So is there anything you want to ask me about?
Well, it's a new year. So what's your goal for this year?
Yeah. So, I'm kind of more of like a life goal person than like, oh, it's a new year, new day. Yeah. Yeah. So, last year I had, a goal of reading 36 books. And that was more of a like challenge to myself so I can't work as much. I have to cut back and do other things.
Yeah. And 3 a month, that's pretty.
Yeah. And I am at 35 and a half right now, and it's January 3rd, I think, that we're filming. Though. So I feel like pretty good.
Yeah,
now, like a 4 or 5 year ago me would have been like, you failure, you didn't hit the deadline. And now I'm like, yeah, what's a couple of days, right?
Yeah, so that's awesome.
I think I'll stick with a good reading thing this year. Yeah. I also like approach the new year, like kind of the whole first couple weeks of just kind of filling out like what I want to do in the next year versus being like, it's January 1. I need to know everything today. You know,
that's kind of what I've been doing too. Usually this week and next week, just sort of like
reflect and then kind of think. What about you? Like, what are you thinking on?
Well, I'm just trying to come up with what we're going to work on this year. Like, what's our big projects?
Like initiatives, like for the year.
And every year at Lara, kind of like to have like this big announcement, like kind of like the Apple announcements where they announce like the new iPhone.
Yeah, but Laravel's way cooler than Apple, right?
I wish. But yeah, some big new thing we can unveil to like surprise everyone.
Yeah.
So we have a few things kind of in our back pocket we're thinking about and that we kind of have halfway built. So I'll probably decide what to do.
Is that a collaborative decision with your team?
Yeah, very collaborative with the staff. And sometimes I'll just ask like, do y'all have any good ideas? It doesn't have to be my idea. And some of our stuff was totally their idea. It wasn't anything I came up with at all. And it ended up working out really well.
I think that's a sign of true leadership, though. I always try to be the dumbest person in the room because I just want to find other people that are smarter than me or better than me or, a better thinker at this, because that's how you build great teams,
Totally.
I'm like, if you're not better than me at something, then this is probably not the right fit. And thankfully, sounds like you've surrounded yourself with really great people as well. Yeah.
And even at the beginning of my career, I feel like I leveled up the most when I was like the least experienced person. Like there were people way smarter than me on the team. And I just like got so much better, so much faster.
You just wisdom, you just kind of learn from other people's mistakes. That's what I try to tell the young kids that come onto our team is just let me teach you what the things I've already screwed up. And then you don't have to screw those up. You can screw something else up. Yeah. So yeah, cool. Well, what are you looking forward to next, personally or professionally? Do you guys have like a big trip planned this year or?
Yeah, well, we do. We actually have a really big trip to Italy. Probably one of our biggest trips.
So like the whole family will go?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Abigail and I, the kids, and we are going to Rome, of course. And then we're going to go to Capri, which is an island.
Yeah.
I don't really know much about it.
I just listened to this Kevin Kwan book. You probably don't know who that is, but he wrote Crazy Rich Asians, which is like totally out of my wheelhouse of life, but it's like this opulent lifestyle. And most of the book setting was in Capri. So I feel like I know about Capri because I just got done listening to this audiobook. So yeah.
I had to Google it. Like I wasn't familiar with it at all.
I've seen it. So we were we got married in Greece a couple of years ago and then went to Italy and did Rome. But while you can see Capri if it's a clear day.
From Rome?
No.
Oh, from the coast of Italy.
Sorry.
Okay.
When we were in, I should have finished that, right? We did the Amalfi Coast. That was like a half story,
so that's
wasn't
the third place we're stopping.
So, are you guys going to stay there?
For like 2 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said it's like quite small.
It's very small. And there's one road that's like the size of a ruler.
Yeah.
And if traffic's coming one way, like you'll just sit there for hours. It doesn't matter how long when you're trying to get we stayed in Sorrento and if I did it again, I would stay in the middle somewhere because being on one end, was like always going back and forth. And so
Gotcha.
that was hard, but it's so beautiful. Like I'd love to spend a whole summer there.
That was definitely one of Abigail's like bucket list destinations. And this is also the first time we've used a travel planner. Like all of our other vacations, we kind of planned ourselves. But for this trip, I was like 3 different locations, like in a foreign country's a lot to like kind of figure out. So we actually hired this guy that lives in Milan and has a travel kind of planning company there to figure it all out. And he warned us like Amalfi Coast is a very tight, small place. It is
very tight, but it is beautiful. And you will walk one way the whole time you're there and it's straight up the whole time. Justin's like, where are we going? I'm like, I promise you this restaurant's just right over here because the pictures you've seen are beautiful, but the coast literally is like that.
Wow.
And so that'll be a great trip. That's awesome.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I feel like I learned a lot about you, a lot about Laravel, and I had fun.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
You've been listening to the GRIT Crusade podcast with Brooke Plack. Our theme song is Thunder City by Lunar Ray. This podcast was produced by Luminate Media Group. Our executive producer is Josh Freeman, and our audio engineer is Steven Stringer. Thank you for listening, and join us again next time.